Hello everyone. If you are to celebrate something 103 years old, it is actually very important for you. If any country celebrate it, it is very important for whole country. If it is celebrated by many countries, then it must be a very important event for whole world. So today we are here to celebrate something very important for human race, which is 103 years ago happened on Russian soil, the Great October Revolution. So before we go further, I would like to introduce our international panel here joining with us for this discussion. So I would like to, first of all, I would like to introduce President, World Federation of Democratic Youth, Comrade Artist Rodriguez Galan, Comrade Sundar Bhushal, Vice President Asia, World Federation of Democratic Youth, and Victoria Severina, member of Bureau of the St. Petersburg City Committee, Leninist Communist Youth Union of the Russian Federation, and Comrade Hafiz Adnan Riyad, President Bangladesh Youth Union, Mir Saqib, Comrade Mir Saqib, Chairperson Democratic Student Federation Pakistan, Comrade Nazir Uddin Prince, General Secretary Socialist Student Front Bangladesh, Mario Lagos, member of the International Relations Bureau of the Central Committee, United Democratic Youth Organization Cyprus, Comrade Akali Salas, member of the Central Council Communist Youth of Venezuela, Vicky Maheshwari, General Secretary All India Student Federation, Comrade Nikos Leontides, member of International Relations Committee of the Central Committee Communist Youth of Greece, Comrade Kalpana Madhubashini, National Committee member, Socialist Student Union Sri Lanka, Comrade Anjana Amarasinghe, National Committee member, Secretary of International Relations, Socialist Youth Union Sri Lanka. So it is our international panel today discussing the victories granted towards youth through the Great October Revolution. So this is our topic today. First of all, I would like to invite cordially Comrade Anjana to introduce today's event and welcome officially our panelists. Comrade Anjana.
Hello, comrade. I'm Anjana Amarasinghe, National Committee member and International Secretary of Socialist Youth Union Sri Lanka. First of all, I hopeful you, your family and friends have doing well in this difficult situation. We are suffering from worldwide of this pandemic. Dear comrades, it is now 103 years since Great October Revolution, which established the world first socialist state. We know it was great triumph of 20th century and it acquired many achievement to the world. Not only leftists, but our enemies also agreed on that. This great revolution caused to awakening of thousands of progressive people in Asia, Europe, Africa, and Latin America. We know at least 1/3 of territories of the world followed this way as consequence of October Revolution. Even the countries where revolution did not take place, it started using the term socialist in front of their name and attempt to showcase that they are socialist country. This is the influence that the October Revolution brought into the world. This is why we call it Great Revolution. Why October Revolution being a significant victory to the world in this much? In one hand, capitalism was proving its pitiless way, and other hand, achievement acquired and go ahead in fast by Soviet Russia. Because in short, it has been achieved in victory that we have never seen before. The Soviet Union was able to exceed the distance in very short period of time. Capitalist countries have passed in centuries in progress of not only the politic and economic, but also in scientific, technology, art, culture, education, health, sport, and other fields. It was not limited to the Soviet Union, but filtered to the whole world, especially to suppressed communities in the world. Furthermore, it has been influencing into the lives of young generation around the world. Imperialists in the world could not enjoy for a long time till they gain by collapsing the Soviet Union as economic repression occurred in 2008 has put imperialism into the deep economic crisis. Instead of searching for the problem in socialism, now they are compelled to mend the loopholes of capitalism. Over and over again, it's proven to us there are no solution for the crisis of capitalism, and only solution is the socialism. Effort of Socialist Student Union and Socialist Youth Union via this international panel discussion is to discuss about the victories granted to youth through Great October Revolution. In this light of the fact that only socialism can create solution for the problem posed by youth and world. Today we have several organizations contributing to this panel discussion. We welcome all the participants and viewers for the program. Go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Comrade Anjana. And before we go further, I would like to let you know that we are on live telecast on following 3 pages: SYU Sri Lanka, SSU Sri Lanka, and WFDY Asia Pacific pages. Before we start this session, let me explain what will be the structure. So everyone in this panel will get 8 minutes for your views and expressions. Then we'll have second round. Then it will be only around 20 minutes, but it won't allocate for anyone. For everybody, we can share our views and anything raised in between our personal views, organization views. So I would like to, first of all, invite to express views Comrade Artist Rodriguez Garland as a president of World Federation of Democratic Youth.
Hi, hello everyone. Dear comrades, first of all, fraternal greetings on behalf of the World Federation of Democratic Youth. And before the speech, I would like to send our best wishes to all of you, your family and friends in this difficult situation that we are suffering worldwide because of the pandemic. We want to thank our Sri Lankan comrades of the SSU and SYU for the invitation to this interesting webinar. I think that maybe now, because of the lockdown in many countries, the second wave of the pandemic that is starting in many countries, it is not possible to do all the actions, the activities that we would like to celebrate these important events. But anyway, it's important to maintain this work doing this kind of online activities, and well, to look which are the actions that we can do in this new situation. Now, starting with the topic of the webinar, I think that the first idea that we have to highlight is that there are moments in history when one event changed everything. The works of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, who now is the 200th birthday of Friedrich Engels, have transformed the contemporary history. In the second half of the 19th century and during the 20th century, there were some of the most important events for those who are struggling for a world without any kind of exploitation or oppression. These milestones cannot be understood without the works that these two geniuses have written. The development of the capitalist mode of production, the replacement of the previous feudal system, the establishment of the capitalists as the new ruling class and the workers as the new oppressed class, began to generate these first tensions during these centuries, and it was beginning to become evident that this system forced its own destruction and gravedigger. The 21st of February of 1848 in London, it was published one of the most important texts of history, the Communist Manifesto. This manifesto, which was written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, changed the course of history, which was followed by as many peace words that guided and still guide millions of workers around the world towards the horizon of emancipation. Some of the words that we can highlight are the capital, value, price, and profit, critique on the Gotha program, the origin of the family, the private property, and the state, and many other books which generated a scientific approach to the exploitation that the working class was suffering. Actually, if there was one event that changed the history, this was the Soviet Revolution. The Soviet Revolution, that which now are celebrating, we are celebrating the 103rd anniversary. Well, was an event that anybody was predicting. Everybody was looking for the countries where the capitalist mode of production was more developed, and nobody expected that the country where the revolution was going to happen was the Soviet Revolution. For this event, I would like to underline a quote from Antonio Gramsci. The 28th of July of 1914, the tensions between the imperialist forces and the emerging capitalist forces caused the outbreak of the First World War. On this situation, Antonio Gramsci said, "In Russia, the war has served to shake the will. These, because of the suffering accumulated in 3 years, have found themselves in unison much more quickly. Famine and starvation were rampant and could affect everyone, increasing the tens of millions of people in one go. The wheels have been put into unison first mechanically and then actively, spiritually, in the wake of the first revolution." This is the quote of Antonio Gramsci that I think that explains really well why this revolution happened. The work of the Soviet Revolution, as well as all the contributions made by Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov Lenin, marked the course of the 20th century, a century which was full of victories and revolutionary processes. One of the achievements that we can highlight is the creation of the glorious Third International and its young wing, the Communist Youth International, the victory over Nazi fascism in the Second World War, and well, the support to the support to many revolutionary processes all over the world. After the end of the Second World War, the 10th of November of 1945, another fundamental event for workers' movement took place in London. In this case, it wasn't an intergenerational event. It was an important event for the international youth movement. Thousands of young people met at the World Youth Conference, which was called by the World Youth Council, bringing together for the first time in the history of the international movement, youth movement, representatives of more than 30 million young people of different political persuasions and religious beliefs, of 63 nations. The pledge of this meeting was, "We pledge that we shall remember this unity." Fourth in this month, November 1945. Not only today, not only this week, this year, but always. Until we have built the world we have dreamed of and fought for. We pledge ourselves to build the unity of the youth of the world, all races, all colors, all nationalities, all beliefs, to eliminate all traces of fascism from the earth, to build a deep and sincere international friendship among the peoples of the world, to keep a just lasting peace, to eliminate want, frustration, and enforced illness. We have come to confirm the unity of all youth, salute our comrades who have died and pledge our work that skillful hands, keen brains, and youth enthusiasm shall never more be wasted in the world. Forward for our future. With this text, the creation of the World Federation of Democratic Youth, this text is the text of the foundation of the World Federation of Democratic Youth, an organization that now, in 3 years, will celebrate its 75th anniversary. The history of the World Federation of Democratic Youth cannot be understood without the contributions that the Soviet Revolution did. For example, one great example of this is that the World Festival of Youth and Students was one of the most important events, which is organized by the World Federation of Democratic Youth, is really connected to these countries that were supported by the Soviet Revolution, that were supported by the anti-imperialist countries. The World Festival of Youth and Students has 19 editions. Hungary, DDR, Romania, Poland, USSR, Austria, Finland, Bulgaria, Cuba, DPRK, Algeria, Venezuela, South Africa, Ecuador, and the last one that was celebrated in 2017 in the Russian city of Sochi was in remembrance of the 100th anniversary of the Soviet Revolution. That is, the 75 years of history of WFDY has always been closely linked to the anti-imperialist peoples of the world, to the liberation and emancipation processes of the working class, and to the struggles of the people. If there's something that the history has shown us, is that history can only be written by the people, and that there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades pass. And actually, we are in one of those situations where at weeks are happening decades. During the pandemic, we have seen really interesting things. We are a generation which was still now suffering the consequences of the last capitalist crisis, which happened more or less a decade ago. Anyway, this the outbreak of the pandemic arrived when the young people, the young students and workers were suffering the consequences of the pandemic. But during this pandemic, we have seen how this pandemic has multiplied the problems that already the young students and workers were suffering. Once again, we have seen how the ruling classes were trying to make us pay, the young people, the workers, they were trying to make us pay for the consequences that the pandemic was having. And they will continue now that we are starting a new economical crisis, a new crisis of the system, to make us pay, to make the working people pay for the consequences of the pandemic. Anyway, in this situation where we will live a new crisis when we were still suffering the consequences of the last crisis, we have seen many experiences which are really interesting. These experiences were of self-organization of the people to avoid the situation generated by the pandemic. Experiences on the neighborhoods where the people was supporting themselves, generating support networks to ensure that the public space were disinfected, that the people have the basic materials to survive as food, hygiene products, and so on, to help those with mobility problems to do the task that we do daily. We also have seen experiences in workplaces to ensure that the conditions were to assure that the conditions on the workplaces were ensured. We have seen experiences in the study centers of the students organizing themselves. Yes, I will finish 1 second. This is the last idea.
1 minute. We have 1 minute.
Okay. We have seen experiences in the study centers to ensure that in the study centers were guaranteeing the safety measures to avoid that the study centers become a point of the spreading of the pandemic, and also to avoid the difficulties on those places where the telematic study, the telematic education was implemented, to avoid that this telematic education, the problems that this model has, that is that not everyone can afford to have a computer, internet, and so on at their home. I hope that now we are in one of those moments in history when everything changes, that this crisis that we are suffering now will be one of those crises where the consciousness of the people will start rising. I hope that these days, decades will go by. I hope that everything we have learned during this pandemic will serve as a lesson to overcome not only the pandemic, but also those who want to make us pay for the crisis that the pandemic has accelerated. Comrades, let's keep struggling until we have built the world that we have dreamed of and fought for, with the example of the October Revolution.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Aris. So I think I would like to remind you, everyone, we'll try as much as possible to limit our speech to 8 minutes, because we have many different organizations participating today. So I would like to invite Vice President Asia World Federation of Democratic Youth, Comrade Sundar Bhushal, to address this panel.
Hello, Comrade. Good evening. Hope you all are fine, and I believe in this crucial time, you and your family all are well there. Okay. On the behalf of all Federation of Democratic Youth and my own, I would like to give millions of thanks to the organizer committee who organized this today program. Dear comrades, October Revolution, the great October socialist revolution in Russia was led by the great leader Vladimir Lenin of the Bolshevik party. So this revolution also called the Bolshevik Revolution. The Great October Revolution followed and capitalized on the foundation of February Revolution, which overthrew the Tsar autocratic regime, was the blow not only to the Tsar and revisionaries in Russia, but also the feudalists and imperialists all over the world. Comrades, this revolution took place during the final phase of the First World War. Russian army barely lost the war on German and Austria. Nearly 7 million Russian army lost their lives during that revolution. There was a sharp impact on Russia, and the army did not want to fight war ahead. In such a critical situation, Russia suffered from many economic and social problems. In the meantime, the Russia revolutionaries and internet mass demonstration and the violent armed clashes with the police and the gender arms. The last loyal forces of the Russian monarchy, at last the Russian army sided with the revolutionaries, and the February revolutions took place in the Russia, resulting in the formation of provisional government of the bourgeois by overthrowing the Tsar regime. The confrontation of the bourgeois to the provisional government of the bourgeois leads Russia to the Great October Revolution, led by the great leader Vladimir Lenin's Bolshevik party. This revolution brought the transformation of the Russian empires into the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, replacing the Russian traditional monarchy with the world's first communist state. Dear comrades, the October Revolution had a great impact on Russia, Europe, and all throughout the 20th century onwards. It led to the establishment of communist system, which for centuries opened the door for better alternative to feudalist, fascist, capitalist parliamentary democracy and the liberal market economy to establish the social system in true sense. Dear comrades and the youth, the revolution gave many impact lessons to the world, galvanized the anti-colonial movement across the Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and inspired millions of youth to fight against the domestic reactionaries and imperialist operates for established social system switch to the respective nations worldwide. Dear comrades, this COVID-19 has proved and shows the nakedness of the capitalism and insincerity of the imperialism. Also, it clearly shows the necessity of socialism for ensuring the fundamental rights of the humans, I mean the peoples all around the world. Dear comrades, even today, the cloud of imperialist terrorism is the major enemy of the world stability, peace, and the prosperity. We, the anti-imperialist and the anti-war left-wing youth, must have to take the courage to defect the imperialist overlord from the foundation of Great October Revolution. So, with this, and then at last, I want to share with this pandemic, with this COVID-19, gives lots of lesson to the youth and the world that with this crisis, the youth, the leftist youth all around the world need to be work more, and then need to focus to our target, to our objective. That's all. So as long as we focus, as long as we dedicated to our achievement, then one day definitely the youth of the world will achieve that success. That's all for today. And revelatory salute to all my comrades. Long life WFDY, long life anti-imperialist. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you, comrade Sundar. And without taking any more time, I would like to invite as the next panelist, Comrade Victoria Severina, member of Bureau of the St. Petersburg City Committee, a member of Leninist Communist Youth Union of Russian Federation. Today, she is joining with us representing Russian Federation.
Hello, dear comrades. On behalf of the Leninist Communist Youth Union of the Russia Federation, I congratulate you on the day of the Great October Socialist Revolution. Exactly 103 years ago, the working people of Russia overthrew the bourgeois government and built the world's first state of workers and peasants. The key issues that had long been raised by time couldn't be resolved within in the framework of the bourgeois exploitative rotten socio-economic system that existed in Tsarist Russia. Only the Soviet government and the Great October could bring the country out of the imperialist war, to make the working man master of the country and not a slave and source of profit of the capitalists, to transform Russia from a backward agrarian empire with a plow and harrow in highly developed industrial power to be reckoned with the world and where they were provided all necessary for normal human development social guarantees, such as the right to an 8-hour day, paid annual leave, education, healthcare, guarantee of the first working place for young people, and so on. Meanwhile, the Soviet government has coped with the task of industrializing the country and overcoming its colossal backwardness. During the 12 years of Lenin's Stalinist industrialization, 9,000 modern high-tech enterprises were built, and the economic growth rate during the first Soviet 5 years plans were about 60%. In the future, the conquest of the Great October will allow the USSR to turn the head of the fascists in the bloodiest war in the history of mankind. Open the way out to space and educate engineers, scientists, doctors, and artists who hadn't no equal in the world. Komsomol members made a huge contribution to the development of the country. The significance of Komsomol among the working youth was determined, of course, by the colossal scale of youth involvement in social production. In 1978, for example, more than 30 million young workers were employed in various sectors of national economy, accounting for 40% in mechanical engineering and construction, one third in transport, and almost half in light industry. Today, when 20% in the city and 30% in rural areas of young people simply can't find a job, and 30 million now, this is not the number of working youth, it's the number of the working class in general in Russia. To talk about such figures, of course, it's not necessary. Instead of trying to change anything, the current government in the year of anniversary of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin again raised the topic of demolishing the mausoleum on Red Square. Leningrad Komsomol members, by the way, a month ago at the Reporting and Election Conference adopted the appeal, hands of the mausoleum of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. And if it's necessary, then we will go to Moscow and together with our comrades, we will stand up for him in a ring. In contrast to the background of bourgeois Russia, the fact that 20 million young men and women participated in the movement of communist labor alone in the USSR, and about 10 million of them won the high title of striker of communist labor. The Komsomol organizations of the country involved huge masses of young people in the all-union socialist competitions for improving the efficiency of production and the quality of work. There were well-developed competitions of subcontractors, contractors of thousand walking rail races. The all-union competitions for passing red banners received a wide scope. The Central Committee of the Komsomol held it together with ministers, departments, and trade unions. For 4 years, these banners were awarded to more than 1,300 teams. Komsomol organizations have done a lot of work to develop scientific and technical creativity for all age and professional categories of young people. The organizational form of this work was the all-union reviews of scientific and technical creativity of young people held jointly with the State Committee of Science and Technology. The operation implementation carried out by the Komsomol committee's contribution to the practical application of achievements of science and technology and the best parties of young innovators in production. In the best Komsomol organization, the average level of implementation of the work of young innovators was 90%. Up to 5 million young workers participated during the year in professional skills competitions, and all union industry competitions were held. Dear comrades, I really hope that the Great October Socialist Revolution will become an example and a stimulus for the active struggle of communists all over the world, for the dictatorship of the proletariat and the socialist path of development. Our task is not to betray our ideals and beliefs, and to make every effort to overthrow the crafty machine of capitalism. Long life to the October Socialist Revolution. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade Victoria. Then I would like to kindly invite for the next panelist, Comrade Vicky Maheshwari from India. It's your time.
Red salute, comrades. I'm sure I'm audible. Comrades, in the very beginning, from All India Students Federation and All India Youth Federation, at the behalf of Comrade Tirumalai Raman, the General Secretary for All India Youth Federation, Comrade Aftab Alam Khan, President of All India Youth Federation, and Comrade Shubham Banerjee, President of All India Students Federation, I wish my revolutionary greetings from all the comrades of AISF and AIYF. We salute on this day to the land of Lenin, the Soviet Russia, which gave a path to the world. And we salute in the very beginning the comrades in Sri Lanka, our very dear comrades who took up this initiative, and they allowed everybody to come to a common platform and to share the feelings on this historic day. So I salute from both the organizations to the host comrades there in Sri Lanka. So comrades, in the very beginning, I'm giving my revolutionary regards on this day, especially to the comrade who have joined from Russia, because we are celebrating the victory of Russian people under the leadership of Comrade Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov Lenin. Comrades, today when we have the cause to celebrate the more than a century of October Revolution, the Great October Revolution, at the same time, we will have to consider, we'll have to see that the socialist model, which practiced by Comrade Lenin and which shown to us by Karl Marx, Frederick Engels, and all other comrades who have given an alternative mode for the people of the world to say that another world is possible, and to say that capitalism should be overthrown from all the countries. Exploitation must come to an end, and this world can be beautiful for each and everyone who is there, who is existing on this earth. And it can be a planet which can be a heaven for everybody, but under that mode of production, which Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov Lenin, our dear comrades, suggested and practiced and showed to the world that it is possible. So salute to all the people, those who gave their lives, those who gave the path to the word and told the people that it is possible. And comrades, when the young people are gathering here on this platform and when we are discussing about the modern challenges and we are celebrating the victories, which are the contributions of the revolution, which are given to the youth of the world, when I'm sitting in India and discussing about it, I cannot forget to mention that India was a colony at the time of Russia Revolution. So the strength that the leaders of USSR gave to the comrades of India to be independent, to fight for the independence, and to establish their own economy, so that contribution to the struggles, freedom struggle of India is still recognized and will be recognized in the coming years as well. So comrades, it was the time when the peace, then when the workers movement was taking place in Russia, the calls were given to the people of the world to come for the revolution wherever it was possible, and the conditions were allowing people to take up the governments and to ensure and to establish the government of the people, basically the communist alternative. At that time, India was being led by the Gadar movement, the freedom struggles, and the same thing, the Indian comrades were also there, as it is been mentioned in the documents also, learning from the fighting forces of Russia. So as Comrade Lenin gave the call in the second Congress of the Soviets, that all we will have to consider those points if we really seek to have a guideline for the future, because we are having more great task which is there in front of all of us, all the comrades sitting here and discussing. The destiny of our people has to be decided under the light of Russian Revolution, and that question is in front of the youth, that how to run the world, because the capitalism in during the pandemic time has been exposed worldwide, that this capitalist system cannot provide anything good to the people. The commercial models, the private models in education, in health, in all the industry has failed like drastically. It is being shown to the people that only a government which invests in the public sector, in the government sector, a real government which can be there to provide the equal share of the labor to all the people, as per guided by Marxism, can be the only sustainable government. We are hosting this seminar, and it is a day that when we are marking another change in the politics of America. We are really not sure that what will be happening in the leadership, under the leadership of the new president over there, because we know that faces, even if the only the faces change, the policy remains the same, then nothing happens. But when India, we compare our Indian politics to the politics of America, and the way the interest, the international relations that we are having with America have thrown my country into a very difficult situation in the last few years. By the time Modi BJP government has come to the power, the unemployment ratio has gone to the maximum level in my country. The education is being largely privatized and commercialized. At that time, when we talk about Russian Revolution, we will have to consider the basic principles, the basic slogans which the comrades of Russia suggested at that time, which are more relevant today, which should be brought to the politics of young people in the times of 21st century, when we are the leading forces of the movements. We will have to see in India, when I talk about the employment, then we see that more than 80% of the Indian youth is unemployed. They are having no future. Everything seems dark to them. And this fascist government, I'm saying fascist because they have shown, they have clearly in 6 years in their rule, they have clearly shown that whatever we will decide will have to be accepted by the people. There is nothing like democracy right
Comrade
now,
Vicky,
though we have
Comrade, we have another 1 more minute.
elections in this country. So what I'm trying to say is that the power which allowed revolution to be in Russia was basically the principal position of Russian Revolution, which we read in the book by John Reed, 10 Days That Shook the World, as my comrade, the president of World Federation of Democratic Youth. He also mentioned that the things which doesn't happen in 10 years or 10 months can happen in 10 days. So the idea of reducing working day, the idea of reducing the legal limit of the working day can be the only solution to provide jobs to the people. So that's why we are saying the industry has to be public, the industry has to be set by the government only, the privatization and commercial sector has to be closed or should be turned as national sector, and to provide the jobs to the people of the world, basically, which is the slogan of the socialism, that work to all according to their eligibility and wages according to the work. So that basic principle has to be reminded by to all the organizations when they work in their own organizations, so that we may bring an alternative. Definitely these governments are not able to run the countries. We are watching another wars happening around the world. Corona also like put people in danger, not only as a disease but also as a failed system. So the only system, the only mode of production which can be a parallel mode of production against capitalism can be the socialist and communist mode of production. So with these words, we salute the spirit of Russian Revolution, which for the coming generations also, for the coming centuries also, will always be a light to show the real path, because Marxism, Leninism is the real force for the working people, and proletariat, as we already know, that they have nothing to lose but change, but we have a word to win. So as Communist Manifesto also tells us that the defeat of the capitalism, bourgeoisie, and the victory of the proletariat is equally inevitable. So let that day be celebrated all across the globe. So with these words, I wrap up from my side, and I again congratulate the basically the host comrades sitting in Sri Lanka. I salute them on this day. I salute each and every comrade from World Federation of Democratic Youth also, those who have joined and those who are giving their wonderful views on this topic. So thank you, comrades. Revolutionary regards. Inqilab Zindabad.
Thank you very much, Comrade Vicky. Before we move into the next panelist, I would like to let you know that we wanted and we invited the Communist Youth Cuba, but with the brutality of American imperialism, they could not join with us. This imperialist American sanctions did not permit them to join with us. So I think it's sad news, but at the same time, we have to fight against this brutal imperialism as well. So comrades, then I would like to invite our next panelist from Bangladesh, President, Bangladeshi Youth Union, Comrade Hafiz Adnan Riyad.
Thank you very much. Dear comrades and friends, warm revolutionary greetings from Bangladesh Youth Union, BYU. We are here in this webinar due to COVID-19 effect. We all know that what happened in this world after pandemic attack. We saw how shameful development done by the capitalist forces by commercialization of health sector. We saw how the so-called powerful bourgeoisie failed to save the life of millions. United States, the leader of the capitalist imperialist forces, failed to give minimum support to the vulnerable countries. On the other hand, how the socialist and communist government managed pandemic successfully. We saw Cuba, Vietnam, China, and even Kerala, state of India. The Cuban doctors gave tremendous efforts to the mankind. Dear comrades, today mankind again stands at a crossroads. On the one hand, destruction, plunder, and degradation of the environment and enslavement of people. And the other hand, immense possibility to eradicate the miseries of people and ensure a free society for free men. The October Revolution arguably had the biggest lasting impacts on the world as a whole, ever since the beginning of the 20th century. The World October Revolution, which mainly led by the working class youth, showed path to the world youth, how devotedly youth can fight against the capitalist, imperialist, fascist, bourgeois forces. And through the victories of October Revolution granted towards youth are very significant to build up a discrimination-free humanitarian world. Being a capitalist country before the revolution in Russia, there were a lot of inconsistencies, both in its basic structure and superstructure. Even the Tsar feudalist and the imperialist government, without injuring the bourgeois democratic revolution within itself, always engaged in a pro-imperialist war. But after the Great Revolution, Soviet Union not only successfully built their heavy industries, but also succeeded in every sector of life. They simultaneously supported their youth in agriculture, science, technology, education, art and culture, sports, everywhere. They supported the democratic movement in every country in every part of the world. The fundamental contradiction of capitalism is already blowing up with catastrophic impact. The bourgeoisie state is bailing out big money with public money, so that public at large and also the developing countries are suffering poverty, hunger, joblessness, reduction of social benefits and services, etc. are haunting common masses everywhere. We need to hate and overthrow the imperialist and crude capitalist world system, which will facilitate the emergence of socialism and communist world system. It will not change automatically. We have to make it possible by our united efforts. It is therefore the duty of the world youth to come forward to discard this evil force of capitalism with united power. Let us build up a global rainbow coalition of the world youth to combine our strength against capitalist imperialist forces. Let us continue our victories granted towards youth through the Great October Revolution. We will build up socialism in our lifetime. The future is ours. Long live revolutionary struggle. Long live our comradeship. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Hafiz. And I would like to invite Chairperson, Democratic Student Federation, representing Pakistan, Comrade Mir Saqib, to address this panel.
Thank you, comrade. And Surf Salam, revolutionary greetings from Democratic Student Federation, Pakistan. And I would like to thank SSU, Sri Lankan Students Union, and Sri Lankan Youth Union, and World Federation of Democratic Youth for inviting us on the occasion of 103rd anniversary of Great October Revolution and be a part of this discussion. So by now, most of my points have already been covered. So I will stick just to the point of education, and I will like to talk about how October Revolution ensured the youth education and literacy. So, comrades, there is no greater school than revolution itself. And the Great October Revolution is indeed the greatest school itself out of all. The most innovative, radical, and successful literacy campaigns were those that were born out of the Great October Revolution. October Revolution not only led to a radical transformation of a school itself, but also of the way of people conceived learning and the relationship between cognition and language. Even though the revolution occurred at such a time when Russia was suffering from aftermath of World War I, poverty, shortage of food, scarcity of resources, civil wars, and even the foreign attacks to counter the revolution. Yet the communist state was determined to offer stunning examples of what education looked like in a society in which working people, the common people, are in charge of their own fate, and the common people democratically made decisions and organized society in their own interest, and they successfully did it so. Developing mass literacy was seen as crucial to the success of revolution. As Lenin said, as long as there is such a thing in the country as illiteracy, it is hard to talk about political education. So, free and universal access to education was mandated for all, and the number of schools or educational institutions at least doubled within first 2 years of revolution. Coeducation was immediately implemented as a means of combating gender discrimination. And for the first time, schools were created for the students with learning and other disabilities, as it was even mentioned by Lucy Wilson in her book, The New Schools of New Russia, which was published in 1928. So in present time, where we are living in pandemic and all the policymakers are making policies which cater or which favor the businesses, it is the youth in our country and it is the students mostly who are being suffered the most. In the name of pandemic, we see they are shutting down schools, colleges, and universities, while all the businesses and profit-making spaces are still running and making highest profit ever. While a century ago, because of October Revolution, it was made possible that education was treated as a basic and essential need. It wasn't treated as a profit generating commodity. Even in the worst given conditions, youth education was on priority. Nonetheless, as Victor Sergey in his book, Year One of the Russian Revolution explains, in spite of this grotesque misery, a prodigious impulse was given to the public education. Such a thirst of knowledge sprang up all over the country that new schools, added courses, universities, and workers' faculties were formed everywhere. And we see, even after centuries, our policymakers are not even interested to make policies which cater the common people or especially which can favor the youth of our country. As stated by Lisa Christenbaum in her book Small Comrades, she supports this argument that in Moscow gubernia, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Moscow gubernia, from just 44 educational institutions by 1917, communist state successfully established 279 educational institutes inside gubernia and 108 institutions in outskirts by 1918, and that all happened just in 1 year. Already in October 1918, the general policy was established to provide education in native languages and to promote and develop the native languages. Education in native language was everywhere, where 25 people or more students in each age group speak our native language, they were introduced with education which was in their own native language. And today in Pakistan, it's 2020 and we are still fighting for our right of students union. And in 1918, within schools in Soviet Russia, student governments were set up, even the elementary school level, in which elected student representatives work with teachers and other school workers to run the schools. In doing so, school became places where students learned the collective action. They already felt as a responsible uh, being of that society. So I will wrap up I will wrap up my point that under capitalism, education will always be means of maintaining classes or class divisions rather than eradicating them. To imagine an educational system that is truly liberatory, we need to talk about fighting for different kind of society. A socialist society, which was made possible by the Great October Revolution, in which, as Marx described, the free development of each is the precondition for the free development of all. It is only by transforming our society to eradicate poverty, oppression, and exploitation in all its form that we can fully unleash human potential and creativity of youth and whole society. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sakib. So without taking any more time, I would like to invite as the next panelist to address Comrade Marius Lagu, a member of International Relations Bureau of the Central Committee, United Democratic Youth Organization, representing Cyprus. Comrade.
Thank you very much. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in this interesting webinar. This year, 103 years have elapsed since the Great October Revolution. 103 years since the Bolsheviks, under the leadership of Lenin, were fulfilling the vision of millions of workers, peasants, impoverished and exploited members of the working class for a new society where exploitation will cease to exist. The Great October Revolution led to the creation of the world's first socialist state and set the path to build a society of higher quality, a socialist society. The successes of the revolution many. The comrades have already enumerated a lot of them, but there are some achievements that simply cannot be stressed enough. Free education, free healthcare for all, and this was a century ago. It only takes a look to the so-called most developed countries around the world to realize how large this achievement was. It is now estimated that today in the USA, 45 million borrowers of student loans collectively have a debt of $1.6 trillion. The average debt a student graduates with is over $30,000. In England, this is almost £40,000. It is clear from this that this debt enslaves millions of young people with the rest of their lives. This phenomenon has been intensified during recent years, where the attack of neoliberalism through various institutions such as the EU, World Bank, IMF, etc., has seen the budgets of public education shrinking year after year after year. Globally, around 300 million children still don't go to school. And this is in 2020, a century after radical technological improvements, growth of productive forces, and the accumulation of a tremendous amount of global wealth. The same applies for healthcare. What the recent pandemic of coronavirus has shown is that the lack of access to basic healthcare for everyone is an existential threat to the humankind as a whole. Countries have been and are forced to impose strict lockdowns simply because the healthcare systems of countries cannot cope with the increasing number of cases due to underfunding. Then, decade after the financial crisis of 2008, EU has asked its member states more than 6 times to cut their spending on healthcare. The comparison could continue indefinitely by mentioning the provision of shelter to its citizens, secure work, working conditions, pension ages, access to culture, etc. The equivalents in capitalism are inequality, children dying from hunger, destruction of the environment, racism, wars, refugees. As a representative of EDON, an organization from Cyprus, I would like to mention another aspect of the Soviet Union contribution to Cyprus. You may or may not be familiar with the history of Cyprus and in particular the Turkish invasion. The Soviet Union has always been an unconditional supporter of the Cypriot people and its fair right to get its independence from the United Kingdom. In the first years after the independence, the Soviet states always supported the young state of Cyprus and blocked several attempts of Turkey to invade the island. After the invasion of Turkey in 1974, it gave moral and material help to Cyprus and in the years that followed, on a political level, was a formidable ally in achieving a series of UN resolutions that until today can be used as tools in our effort to solve the Cypriot problem. For all this, the young people in Cyprus and all the future generations are deeply grateful. With the success of October the Revolution, a message was sent to millions of people across the globe that another society is possible. This tangible expression of the Marxist-Leninist ideology inspired millions of youth to organize and struggle. This, in combination with other factors, led to the foundation of the Communist International of Youth. Today, it is true that it's a problem, and especially in these conditions of recession for the international communist and youth movement, the absence of an international coordinating body corresponding to the international. There is a need for coordinating our actions and a unity of actions based on the principles of proletarian internationalism and international solidarity. It is also within this context that it's considered an indispensable need to safeguard and strengthen the anti-imperialist character of WFDY and to strengthen unity among its member organizations. Drawing inspiration, but also wisdom and learning from the lessons of the first attempt to build a socialist society, it is our duty to inspire youth in our countries, to raise the people against imperialist plans, against the rotten capitalist system that produces war, misery, fascism, and exploitation. Lenin's word revealed perhaps the single most important thing the October Revolution gave to the youth. We have made the start, wrote Lenin on the 4th anniversary of the October Revolution. When, at what date and time, and the proletarians of which nations will complete this process is not important. The important thing is that the ice has been broken, the road is open, and the way has been shown. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Farias. And I would like to invite Comrade Akadi Salas, representing members of the Central Council Communist Youth for Venezuela, to address this panel.
Greetings from the Central Council of Venezuela. Hi, greetings for all. Beforehand, on personal and community greetings from the Central Council of Venezuela are the all organizing of this memorable event and another participant. And of course, one greeting is special for the people that in this moment fighting against imperialism. The October Revolution has a guide to the process of the national liberation in Latin America. Few events in the history of humanity had managed to transcend results.
Comrade, its line is not clear. Actually, line is not clear. Actually, can't hear properly. Could you please adjust your connection?
You can listen to me now, or sorry. All right. Okay. You can hear me, correct?
Yeah, Comrade, it's not clear. Actually, what you're saying is not clear. We can hear your sound, but what you're saying is not clear. Other panel members, is it same? Yeah.
Yes.
One thing, comrade, just to say, one thing that we can try is please ask the comrade to put off the video and just try to connect only with the audio. Sometimes it gets better when the network connection is there. This problem.
Comrade, could you please turn off the video and come with only voice? Comrade? Comrade Akali, can you hear me?
Okay, Conrad, let's get now. Yes, you can understand me. Yes, you can listen to me. You can hear me.
Can you please turn off the video?
From the central box, the activities of the Institute of Transfer of the community organization and the other participants in this member and of course of the people that in this moment the revolution accelerated the process of the national liberation in Latin America. The events in history of humanity has managed to transcend with force and relevance as the revolution. To the market the extent of the Latin American peoples who have been dealing with the process with the racial researchers and the national process of this side of the Atlantic. Allies are also present among the workers and parents among sectors of the intelligence of the time. Allowing to be able to start with advanced thinking, later what was possible, a lot of people, social issues. Alright, you can hear me now. Alright, you can hear me now. Well, I was also effective demonstration that the explosive the brother for the certain mass with organization also political control of the state. The news spread like wildfire in every town, in every village. The provisional government that held the reign of Russia was opposed. The service authorities have finally fallen completely. These creatures of chance didn't take long to reference the consensus of Latin American people who the state organized. Marxist and progressive movements and throughout America. Revolutions and dreams arise exploded. We will first name each different class. Thousands of young people enrolled in the class of the Socialist in the new world that have been ground Uruguay, Chile, and Argentina, were most advanced nations on this path. That probably they subsequently other nations will be eroded. These advances were only corrected beyond series of institutions and laws of an anti-communist nature. Child, textile, torture, and there was a king who will fight to defend the right of the oppressed. Of the people for arose for years was my voice. One down the libertarian book, which were the fundamental role of the youth, coming the project that began its execution 103 years ago. You guys laughing strongly. The October Revolution and so important advantage for the youth from this achievement was the development of the inclusive and quality educational model that opened its doors to the world. Thousands of young people from all corners of the planet were formed at these solid universities, demonstrating the broader cause among the people. Not only in this aspect of obtaining a conquest youth, the Soviet legislation brings opportunities and for development that assuming on the magnificent example for the diversity of nations fighting for its well. With strength, commitment, and delivery to continue to be at the forefront of this fight against good capital and imperial domination, and process that are developed in Latin America today are really except for the first. Thank you very much for your attention, Conrad.
Comrade Akali, thank you very much for your contribution. And I would like to invite next to address this panel. Comrade Nikos Leontides, member of the International Relations Committee of the Central Committee of Communist Youth of Greece. Could you, Comrade Nikos, it's your time.
Yes, hello comrades. It's nice to see you again. Well, on behalf of the Central Council of the Communist Youth of Greece, we send a warm, comradely internationalist greeting to the delegations of all the communist youth organizations who are taking part in today's web meeting. We sincerely wish to all the comrades, the members of your organizations, to be healthy and strong. Especially, we would like to greet the comrades from the Socialist Youth Union and the Socialist Students Union for this initiative 103 years after the greatest world historic event of the 20th century. It is very important to be able to discuss and exchange experience under difficult circumstances such as today, while having the aim to strengthen our struggle in every country, but also enhance the cooperation, the joint struggle, and the coordination of the struggle of the communist youth organizations. We find ourselves in the midst of development that reveal to a great extent the destructive forces of capitalism in its highest stage of development, imperialism. On the one hand, the outburst of the pandemic in our country and internationally revealed the tragic conditions of the public healthcare systems, while on the other hand, the pandemic itself acted as a catalyst for the outbreak of a new economic crisis as a result of the capitalist overaccumulation during the recent years in the global capitalist economy. The development and the depth of the crisis, the realignment of forces in the imperialist pyramid, first and foremost, the questioning of the supremacy of the USA on behalf of China, led to further sharpening of the inter-imperialist competition all over the globe. The developments themselves place a strong focus on the issue of the only real way out in favor of the workers' people's interests. They need to break the vicious circle of contradictions of a system which is unable to meet the vital needs and rights of the vast majority of the people, while the increase in productivity and the development of technology and science create the preconditions for leaps to improve and address social problems radically. The way out of this vicious cycle, the way to socialism and communism, was shown 103 years ago by the Great October Socialist Revolution, which proved that capitalism is not invisible and that the working class can construct a society without exploitation of man by man. All of us, we honor the greatest revolutionary leap in the future by keeping today the flame of the revolution alive. Socialism in the 20th century proved its superiority in comparison to capitalism, released enormous productive forces, and freed mankind from the bonds of wage slavery. The achievements of the workers in the socialist states served as a point of reference and contributed to the conquests of the working class and people's movement of the capitalist states. For the first time in history, everyone had guaranteed work, public and without cost medical health care and education, cheap services from the state, house, access to intellectual and cultural creation. The complete disappearance of illiteracy, in correlation with the increase of the general level of education and specialization, the disappearance of unemployment are unique socialist achievements. The Cultural Revolution, as an integral element of the socialist construction, gave the possibility to the workers to come to know the achievements of human civilization. The non-working time expanded. Its content changed. It became time for the development of the cultural and educational level of the workers, for the strengthening of their participation in the workers' power and in the control of the administration of the productive units. Social security of the workers was the top priority of the socialist state. A universal pension system was created, having as a great achievement the low age limits for pensions, 55 for women, 60 for men, while the expenses for pensions comprised an element of the central planning of the economy. The socialist power set the basis for the abolition of the inequality of women. Overcoming the tremendous difficulties that objectively existed, it guaranteed in practice the social character of motherhood, the social care for children. It guaranteed for women equal rights with men in the economic, political, and cultural sector. even though not all forms of unequal relations between the two genders had been yet abolished. Relations that have been established during a very long course. The dictatorship of the proletariat, the revolutionary workers' power, as a state, expressing the interests of the social majority of the exploited and not of the social minority of the exploiters, was proven to have been a democracy of the highest level. For the first time in history, and for a long time, it presented the possibility that production unit could be the core of democracy, with the representative participation of the workers in the power and its administration, the possibility to elect and recall the representatives of the workers in the higher bodies of the power. October Revolution, the workers' power pulled the masses out of the margins of society. The achievements that doubtlessly were marked in the socialist states in comparison with their starting point, but also in comparison with the life of the workers in the capitalist world, demonstrate that in socialism, the possibilities for continuous leaping progress of the social well-being and multifaceted development of man are inherent. The historically new is that development had to do with all the masses, in contradiction with capitalist development that is connected to exploitation and social injustice. The potential of socialist construction, the superiority of socialism over capitalism, becomes apparent when we think about the socialist construction in the USSR that was developing under conditions of imperialist strategic encirclement, of great destruction, obstacles and threats, of Cold War. The loss of the potential of the socialist construction from a point, and due to specific reasons that have nothing to do with the scientific laws of socialism, does not justify, in any case, capitalism and its apologists. The overthrow of socialism, the dissolution of the USSR and the capitalist restoration in Russia and other socialist countries do not frighten us. We decisively declare that the 21st century will be the century of the new social revolutions. Today, when the degree of socialization of labor has reached unprecedented heights, huge potential has emerged with a transformation of science into a direct productive force and the impressive increase in the degree of automation of industrial production. The gap between current living and working conditions and the modern needs and possibilities is even larger. The development of productive forces in the era of digital economy and the fourth industrial revolution facilitate even more the construction of the new socialist relations of production, and in other words, only socialism can lead to great heights, the development of the productive forces with the aim to meet all the social needs. Dear comrades, concluding, let's walk the road paved by the first storming of the heavens, the greatest tribute to the achievements of socialism, to the contribution of millions of workers, revolutionaries in all over the world, to the greatest revolutionary that emerged from the international communist movement in the 20th century, Lenin, honoring the 150 years since his birth, is no other than the promotion of the joint struggle of all those who have objective interests from the struggle against their capitalists, the monopolies, their state and their alliances, which is the promotion and the highlight of the limits of the capitalist system. We have all the resources so that directly and even more decisively we can prove that the socialism that we will construct will lead to a level of social prosperity, to a level of participation in workers' control, and to a higher living standard in comparison to the ones achieved in the countries of socialism in the 20th century. Thank you very much, comrades.
Thank you very much, Comrade Nikos. And next, I would like to invite General Secretary, Socialist Student Front, representing Bangladesh, Comrade Naziruddin Prince, to address the panel.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to convey revolutionary salute from Socialist Student Front to the workers and youth of the world on the occasion of the 103rd anniversary of the Great October Revolution. which remains ever youthful in the hearts of the oppressed of the world. And I would also like to thank Socialist Students Union and Socialist Youth Union of Sri Lanka for bringing us together here. Friends and comrades, as we all know, these are very dark times, not only for the workers for our youth of the world, but also for the very existence of our world. The ongoing pandemic has shown us ever more clearly how disastrous and vicious the capitalist world system can be. The profit-monger capitalist ruling class don't care about the lives of people, let alone ensuring their democratic and basic human rights. That's why we are seeing the rise of authoritarian, far-right fascist regime around the world, and the world has never been a situation so tired before. Because capitalism has successfully learned to control the voices of the youth around the world through its hegemony, at a time like this, we are here to remind us of the glory of the youth brought about by the struggle of social change, by the struggle for building up the first ever socialist country in the world. The revolution that took place in the Soviet Union in 1970 brought to the fore the question of ownership. Will there be a few owners? Will there be individuals, or will society itself will be the owner? People produce everything together in a social system, but ownership in the lands of a few people. This is a problem that capitalism hasn't been able to solve. That's why the socialist revolution was needed. An example was set for the world of established social ownership. We know the October Revolution was completely different because that wanted to clarify the question of ownership. Other revolutions continue to protect private property. Not only that, um, mm, uh, ca- uh, capitalism uses the state to defend private property. The state became an armed guard to the armed guard of private ownership. So the question that the revolution has brought before us is, who will own the property? Will the owner be 5% people or 95% people? The solution to this problem cannot be given by capitalism, and the barbarity, the inhumanity of capitalist atrocities has been exposed everywhere today. So the significance of this revolution is the struggle to establish social ownership. The second thing that brought the issue of the revolution is to the fore is that what is more important? Is it profit, or is it the peoples of world? Capitalism sees profit as the most important thing. It understands nothing but profit. And socialism understands people, values humanity. The struggle of socialism is struggle for the establishment of humanity. The struggle of socialism is the struggle to break the profiteering. So the significance in this place is that ownership will be social. If it is here that humanity, not profit, must be established. What happens if there is profit? What happens if profit reigns? We have seen that in the current world. We have seen two world wars. Today we are seeing barbarism. We have seen Russia, what our comrades said, what the state looks like after it moved away from socialism. We have seen that in China also. It is said that socialism has collapsed. Not really. The state moved away from socialism. When the Soviet Russia moved away from socialism and established capitalism, it became the most unfortunate event of the world. The women who lives were in dignity were forced again to sell their bodies as before. The professor who was with the dignity was seen begging. We will see the change from socialism to capitalism in these two cases. We will like to the we will like to uh, look to the dignity of women and dignity of the education and knowledge. The youth of Russia had a unique role in this great sacrifice of building the socialist society after the October Revolution and its aftermath. Under the leadership of the great Stalin, these young men gives their lives without hesitation in the fight to save the people of the world from the clutches of Nazis Hitler. Russia's youth society had played a leading role in the to building a new society, breaking away from the old rotten one. The bourgeoisie is working to seize the labor force of the united workers and the surplus value they create. The Communist Manifesto states a ghost is haunting Europe, this ghost of communism. The bourgeois all agreed to expel this ghost. They formed multinational corporation, conflicting political parties within the country gave birth to the United Nations, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, etc., and encouraged microfinance and NGO activities. They use the media to propagate capitalist idea. The key is to keep everyone busy for personal gain. With a status on Facebook or social media, we think the system is being hit hard. The system laughs back at our weakness. It wants us to express as much anger as we want, to vent out the hesitation building up inside in a manner that don't threaten them even a little. In that way, their fortune will be saved and we will become more and more scattered and divided. The role of the youth in societies around the world has always been historic. From the days of Socrates, most of whose followers are the youth, to this day, the forces of youth have always upheld the banner and the ideas and progress. In French Revolution, Paris Commune, in October Revolution, each time the society leapt towards a radical change, the youth strengthened the history of the freedom and emancipation. It's a historical trust that only the youth can be trusted with with their unstable curiosity, search for new dreams, courage to explore new paths, and willingness to take responsibilities. Their involvement can radically turn the world upside down. We have seen in recent times that people are fighting worldwide against poverty, exploitation, and humiliation. In the US, we have seen the biggest uprising against the racism in history. In Chile, we have seen the victory of people's movement. In Bolivia, we have seen a US-backed cop getting defeated by the people's movement. We have seen multiple cop attempts getting crushed by the people of Venezuela. It almost seems like the era of deafening silence has come towards the demise. The youth and the youth people of the world see no more future in the existing capitalist frenzy. That's why they protest. But we should know the root cause of all this. It is the endless drive for profit that is causing every problem we are facing these days. And to top it all off, even the very planet we live in facing a threat greater than none before. For the search of profit, the corporation and government put their hands together to destroy the forest, rivers, and hills and burn them to the ground. Protecting our earth and its environment has become a priority now. But to protect, we must seek who destroys our environment and why. It is nothing other than capitalism, only for the sake of endless profit. And who has to stand against this destruction? The youth of every country. They must set aside all the small and group interests to serve the world. They must act, and it must be done right at the moment. They must not waste a single second of the time running behind the capitalist trap. The role of young society in the revolutionary movement is unavoidable, undeniable. The bourgeoisie and the pretty bourgeoisie joined and led the movement, but they fell out of their classes, overriding their own classes' interest and putting the interest of the working people first. This deviation occurs for two reasons. The first reason being deep sensitivity. The second reason is intellectual excellence. So,
Comrade, we have another 1 more minute.
I will take 2 minutes more. It's okay. One kind of people, they don't know the, as Lenin said, that there is three kinds of slaves. One kind of people don't know that they are slaves. These are the slaves, real slaves. The second type of people enjoying being slaves, they are oats, then slaves, they are broker. And there is a third type of people who are not willing to accept this system. They are revolutionaries. The revolutionaries don't defend the system. They want to break it down. If we look at the history of our country, we said there have a struggle for a long time. In 1971, we were in a liberation war, but we saw that Pakistani aggressor raped our women. Now the gang rape is going on in Bangladesh every day. Now there is no Punjabi aggressor. Bengali people, Bengali youth are raping women, and women are the victims of gang rape. In the last 20 years, less than 1% of rape cases have been convicted. Bangladesh didn't become independent because such incident would happen. 3 million people didn't die in the country because such incident would happen. 2 lakh women have not lost their dignity to gain such a country. I'm finishing that. Many people, sir, there is a many people have died without treatment in the coronavirus epidemic. The country's fragile health system was exposed. Many people lost their jobs and about 4,000 new millionaires emerged at the same time. In other words, even during this epidemic, a group did their business and looted. State-owned jute mills have been shut down and thousands of workers have been laid off. And if we protest against it, indescribable state torture is coming down. There is no people's right to vote. There are all fascist plans to suppress the opposition political forces. In one of the speeches after the revolution, Lenin said that first need for a new state is education, the second need is education, and the third need is education. But the education don't be dead or embellishment. We will be applied, will be the part of social life. The youth have a really bitter experience from capitalism. Why should they go? Is still part of them defend the system where we be robbed or be a robber? Will they continue to do? Or the fight to overthrow the system? Struggling people all over the world are wondering, where have all the flowers gone? Youth is that flower. They fight for every right: education, employment, home, health. They must seek to snatch away the rights they have been deprived of for all this year. They must seek to destroy the system that squeezes every rights out of and produce tremendous amount of wealth for the billionaire. Coronavirus has revealed the ruthless exploitation and people's misery every capitalist country. If we want an exploitation-free society where people live with dignity, we should stand, unite, and fight against capitalism, imperialism. It is the responsibility of young people. So young people of the world, rise up. The world is awaiting for your revolutionary movement. Thank you. Thank you. Long live international solidarity.
Thank you very much, Comrade Nazir. And I would like to invite now representing Sri Lanka National Committee member, Socialist Student Union, Comrade Kalpana Madhubhashan, to address the panel.
Comrade, yes, I will start, but I think Comrade Victor from Russia is here, and he said that he is also in a hurry, and
so shall we skip and ask him to?
No, let's ask whether he has the audio, like audio is set, or otherwise I will start.
Comrade Victor?
Comrade Victor from Russia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, Comrade Victoria, I'm sorry, not you, but there is another comrade, Comrade Victor. He is also from Russia. Okay, I think I will start.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we can figure out the problem with Comrade audio. So comrades, first of all, I wish all of you comrades good health and strength in this difficult pandemic situation. To begin with our intervention, what kind of a world we live in? Every day we wake up to a world that capitalism has ruined for youth as well as for the whole humanity. We wake up to a world in which more than 9 million people die per year from hunger, not because there are no enough food to feed the world population, but because food are not affordable or because capitalist governments simply ignore the food and nutrition of its people. However, and also we wake up to a world in which more than 71 million of youth are unemployed, more than 1.6 billion of people are homeless, and more than 100 million of youth are illiterate. These are only the statistics which are calculated for the census. Other than that, these numbers may be way more higher than these numbers. And we wake up to a world that neoliberalism has attempted to commercialize every aspect of the humanity. Even human lives have become commodities. Youth have been made victims, and for every step of their life, they have made to they have been compelled to chase the opportunities. In turn, that they have been turned hostile to each other. And also within capitalist system, The youth has been looked at as the subjects that can be exploited, suppressed, blinded, and maybe murdered as per the requirements of the capitalism. So the crisis of this capitalism brings brings us to a point where we should look for the ways to get away. Most of the times, many suggest that reforms is the answer, but it is proven fact that those are short-term mending of the faults. Reforms are no way permanent solutions to the crisis we are facing today. While we look forward to the solutions, we encounter great example manifested to the world that system of a better world, changed world is possible. That example is the Great October Revolution. In the landmark year 1917, progressive people of Russia took a leap towards socialism by Great October Revolution. When we come to the subject of the forum today, we have to understand how youth were looked at in the Soviet Union after Great October Revolution. Youth, including students, were looked at as the most resourceful, most potent, and most essential for the humanity to thrive with moral and material development. Whole system supported to transfer youth from being victims to being valued. And unlike the capitalist system, Soviet socialism had an overall approach for the development. It supported youth to thrive with development of every aspect related to the youth. To name some: nutrition, health, education, safety, housing, employment, security, family, love, and also better environment. If we consider the development of education as example, in 1916, literacy rate of Russia was 24%, and in 1937, it increased to 99%. Within the initial 30 years of the Great October Revolution, parameters of education intensely increased, reaching 1940, number of universities increased from 21 to 718. The development of education caused to create more scholars who took the responsibilities as teachers, lecturers, doctors, engineers, scientists, and other professionals in developing the country. Education, employment, housing had been granted as fundamental rights without discriminations of gender or otherwise. By ensuring fundamental necessities of youth, they were given opportunity to grow in a secure environment and serve back to the development of their community as well as the country. In contrast to the victimized lives youth have within the capitalism, in Soviet socialism, youth had access to literature, entertainment, and sports. Soviet Union came forward with award-winning literates, scientists, sportsmen and women, and took rapid leaps in technological developments. Victories of Great October Revolution was not only limited to the youth within Soviet Union. Those victories were granted towards the international community as well. Examples set out by the Great October Revolution gave strength to the leftist parties and youth organizations to intensify their struggle and to realize socialism in their respective countries. They also received necessary support from Soviet Union in anti-imperialist and anti-fascist struggles. Furthermore, Soviet Union granted material support to other countries and youth in need. Every year, Soviet Union granted numerous scholarships for international students. Founder of our party, who founded our party in 1965, the People's Liberation Front, Comrade Rohana Vijayveera was also a scholarship medical student of University of Lumumba. Experience he acquired in Soviet Union surely polished his revolutionary thoughts and revolutionary character in him. Soviet Union had a program to provide international community with industrial, educational, and technological support. Many publications were sent to countries, even Sri Lanka, to improve knowledge and comprehension of the people. With industrial support received, in Sri Lanka also there were several industries developed and youth of several countries were granted with more employment opportunities. Most importantly, what Great October Revolution served to contemporary youth as well as youth of current world and future by increasing their hope that the change, better world and socialism is possible if people unite and struggle against capitalism. Today, we look at the Great October Revolution with hope to make it possible to realize anti-imperialist socialist revolution within all our countries. That is why we have gathered around anti-imperialist international platforms such as World Federation of Democratic Youth and must strengthen those. Anti-imperialist international solidarity is a must in realizing socialism as well as facing counter-revolutions.
Comrade, we have another 1 more minute.
With that note, we conclude our contribution to this forum, saluting all the comrades who dedicated their lives for the Great October Revolution and wishing strength and courage to all the comrades around the world who struggle to realize socialism. Long live anti-imperialist international solidarity. Long live WFDY.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, comrade.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kalpana. And I would like to invite next Comrade Victor Porrenko, member of International Committee of Russian Communist Workers' Party, to address the panel.
Hi, comrades. I'm very pleased that you have invited our party to join your this international meeting. The conditions in Russia for the last 6 months have been pretty difficult for political struggle because the political freedoms have been removed. We cannot hold rallies or public events officially. They're all banned by the authorities. But still, many comrades in different cities today have gathered in one form or another to commemorate the 103rd anniversary of the Great October Socialist Revolution. And we believe we have to break through despite all these limitations which are brought by various governments and excused by the pandemic. We still have to carry on with the struggle. We are in contact with several workers' collectives who are in the vanguard of this struggle, who are doing something amongst the class-based trade unions, and we hope this struggle is being done in parallel with the struggle that you are waging in your countries. The youth is also in pretty hard conditions, but we keep carrying on. I also want to remark that the authorities are very hypercritical. They limit very much political events, but they do not limit all the events that may increase the risk of pandemic and various viruses. So we just want you to know that, and we will carry on our struggle for the victories of the future socialist revolutions. Please accept our greetings from our party and our youth in your and wish you successes and breakthroughs and victories in your countries.
Comrade Victor, thank you very much for your contribution. And next, so we'll wind up first session with this one, and would like to open the floor for everybody to raise questions, ideas about each other's view, and it will be limited for 20 minutes. So I think now it's for all of you to discuss each other's views on this matter. And you can raise your hand and start the discussion, or
So if anybody hasn't raised the hand, so I'll be, because it becomes a difficult situation when you ask like all these people to speak, that whom to speak first. So anyhow, comrades, because I'll have to start my journey for tomorrow's meeting. Before leaving, I want to make one contribution and suggestion, that which already our comrades at different level they are doing in different organizations. Our comrades, which are basically part of World Federation of Democratic Youth, I would say that the thing that that time, like a century ago, Comrade Lenin told that the industrial capital is being taken over by the finance capital. So this is the time when the finance capital has started ruling the world, and that has become the main power, that main force to I would say, to run all the governments in the world. I would say, like, why do they chose Modi and BJP in this country? Because this government, they find more favorable to open their profits and to mold the labor laws and to break the constitution, everything in the favor of the corporates. So comrades, we must concentrate by learning from the Russian Revolution on the idea of fighting against world finance capitalism. We all may focus ourselves on the socialist grounds to provide jobs for everybody, because this is becoming the biggest question in the world, that how to provide jobs, and giving jobs cannot be, is not possible in the capitalist mode of production. That needs socialist mode of production, which can give a main challenge to the world finance capital. So by considering this as a main enemy force, we must concentrate on our struggles, and we wish that all the people in the world who are fighting for against unemployment and for the decent jobs, for free and compulsory education to their people, will be coming in solidarity on this issue, and on the issue of reduction of working hours, so that we may provide new jobs, as suggested by Marxism and Leninism. Thank you, comrade.
Thank you very much, Comrade Vicky. And so any one of you can take the lead. Comrades, while we are having the discussion here, I would like to just take you back to again 90s, 20s, 1920 actually. While addressing All Russian Congress of the Russian Communist League, Comrade Lenin, he was really giving the communist youth how to become a communist, as well as what we should do. So I would like to quote him exactly in this way. And the whole point here is that with the transformation of the old capitalist society, the upbringing, training, and education of the new generation that will create the communist society cannot be conducted on the old lines. The teaching, training, and education of the youth must proceed from the material that has been left to us by the old society. We can build communism only on the basis of the totality of knowledge, organizations, and institutions, only by using the stock of human forces and means that have been left to us by the old society. Only by radically remolding the teaching, organization, and training of the youth shall we be able to ensure that the efforts of the younger generation will result in the creation of society that will be unlike the old society, in the creation of communist society. So I think he was trying to tell us that we need to act on educating youth and training them properly. So my idea as a host, so I would like to ask you a question: are we in such process worldwide? So are we enough working on it?
Perhaps I can share my opinion on this. Can you hear me?
Sorry?
Can you hear me, comrade?
Yeah, yeah.
So perhaps I could start by sharing my opinion on that, and perhaps the other comrades can follow. Sometimes it may be easier, like, to state a lot of, to have a theoretical approach to a lot of our issues, and we may even, do perfect analysis of the situation, which obviously stems from our ideology, and we might, give a perfect answer for everyone to have as a solution to this problem. The problem itself is to make this knowledge and to make this way of thinking prevalent to the youth, and to make it and to make them realize what we are talking about. So, I mean, approaching the youth now in a period where perhaps is not so much involved with politics, or they are like more individualist, because the system is more individualist. It's not easy by having a theoretical approach. I think what it's best to do, and what it's easier, and certainly that's something that in my country at least seems to work a bit more, is like to distinguish and identify some basic needs of the youth, campaign and struggle for this simple, which may look simple, demands, and use this as a means to address the conscience of someone. It's much easier to call someone to fight for a wage increase, or for a minimum wage, or for healthcare, or for student rights, and then developed on a theoretical approach, rather than simply to, share all this theoretical approach before doing anything practical and help the youth. So I guess we are in a stage that obviously we struggle, because we live in a system that it can be very powerful against us. But I think that's the main point. I think the point is to keep struggling and keep trying to do more in such harsh conditions. So yeah, I think that's my opinion on this matter.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, comrade. So we have time if we are to so if now if we are not yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we are hearing you.
Yeah. So since we are done with this event and expressing our views and opinions and discussion, so we can actually wind up the our panel discussion. So shall we? Yes. So I would like to thank you all the organizations who participated here, given your time here and your opinions. and all the suggestions. I think it is the most important thing right the moment, as we all face crisis. Actually, as a civilization is at stake, human civilization, with this global pandemic situation. So we have to overcome that one as well. So even though we are apart, we could manage to celebrate and commemorate 103rd anniversary of a great October Revolution. And finally, I would like to thank you all on behalf of SYU and SSU Sri Lanka to participating and giving your opinion and ideas. So thank you very much, and long live revolution.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
comrades. Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you, comrades.
Thank you, comrade. Red sleeve.
Thank you, comrades.